So today we're here just to hear your concerns segment by segment. We'll only focus on your issues that you would want to share with all of us. And if you have any questions regarding the project, you can definitely visit the website or let us know in either chat or by raising hands, and we will just unmute you one by one. Whoever raises hand first will get unmuted. And here we will go segment by segment, and we'll have 10 minutes at each segment to talk about. And a person who raises hand will talk about the first segment, and if they have, they want to talk about the second segment, they'll get another chance to raise their hand in the when the slide moves to the next segment.
Okay, just going back to what was already said, we divided the segments or the corridor into 4 segments. We'll go through each one, and then by raising your hands, you can discuss what your concerns are, what you encounter on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So the first segment is from South Livermore Ave to Estate Street. Does anyone have any concerns or what they would like to see? Please raise your hand and we will. Okay.
We have Matt Gilbert.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, I think I'm unmuted. Yeah, thanks for taking the time to do this. Yeah, segment 1 doesn't have a bike lane, whereas the rest of the segments do. And so this was stated a few times. And so I bike on it every day, and there's parking on the side of the street. And so it's kind of unnerving having cars whiz by you at 40 when you're just kind of biking in the street. And it doesn't necessarily need to be, if the parking is higher priority than the bike lane, but maybe an alternative bike route where they tell you turn up Jefferson and go on 4th, for example, would be fine if there was a sign that suggested that, or a bike lane on the road. But just some guidance for what cyclists should do on that stretch.
Okay. So next we have is Eve. Eve, you've been unmuted, so if you'd like to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Going west at Livermore High in the mornings, there's like always there's not much to do about it, but sometimes there is a backup of drop off turning right onto Maple. It would be kind of nice if there was a turn lane right there. I know that might be impossible, but there is congestion in the morning at drop off, but maybe it's only 15 minutes. It's not that big of a deal.
Perfect. Anybody else have any concerns between East Avenue, between Livermore Ave and Estate Street? Okay, we have Stephen.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah. In addition to what has already been said, I'm mostly a cyclist, but I do all modes as well. But my particular thing of note is that if you want to keep going west, then there isn't really any bike facility off the end of East Avenue that you want to get to, per se. Like, you don't want to bike down 4th. So you want to turn left on 7th, or you want to go up Maple Street, basically. And turning left on 7th, even with the light controlled at Maple, can be a little tricky, crossing the 2 lanes of traffic. And then there might be a bus behind it waiting to leave, and there's some confusion there. So that's
better
7th Street.
Connection
well,
over here is
either a better connection over there to make it easier to keep going west, or a better way to turn left onto 7th.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Bill. Salur, I unmuted you.
Thank you. And yeah, the name is not phonetically obvious. Our family name is Beaulieu.
Paulie. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay.
And I agree with everything that our neighbors have said so far. We live on Jensen Street, close to East Avenue, and we see a lot of pedestrians coming from, you know, different places, different apartment complexes or whatever, to go to the mini mart or to head where they're headed next. And it's rare to, it's very common to see people crossing not at the crosswalk because they're in a hurry to get where they're going. I'm not expecting any of, you know, the consultant to solve that, except to say that we do see cars going very fast, and it is difficult to see the pedestrians. Even when we use the light and we cross within the crosswalk, like when we walk in the evening, if it's dark, cars don't always stop because they're not paying attention or they don't notice. So something certainly stronger than what is currently there to really make it safer for a walker to cross the street legally, right? And safer for those who are in a hurry and don't always use the crosswalk would be fabulous. That would be important to us.
Which location did you say this was at?
This is at Jensen and East Avenue. So, you know, between Jensen and Dolores, and then again between Jensen headed a little bit past by the mortuary, because there are apartment complexes near there where people are headed over to the mini mart. And so that's where we see a lot of the pedestrian traffic, or people headed to the bus stop on that side.
Yeah. Thank you for your comments. We'll move on to Christine.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to echo that we do need a bike lane of some sort. I also, the intersection of South Livermore Avenue and 5th, that little triangle, that's sort of like a little bit of a problem area for pedestrians crossing. I happen to live near the green patch, and you just have to be so aware of cars. And even when you're aware, it can be very frustrating. Even when it's your turn and you're using the lights to cross, the cars, because there's a yield coming from 4th Street onto Livermore Avenue to get to East Avenue, right where it's circled, that whole area, it's scary.
Yeah.
And I also just wanted to echo too that we have a high school, and then we're, you know, going, as we move down the road, we're approaching East Avenue, and it just needs to be more bike friendly and pedestrian friendly for our students when they do go back to school.
Okay. Note them down. Does anybody else have any concerns here, or we can move to the next? Okay, we have E again.
I was just gonna say, the crosswalks that we do have, like the one at Jensen, it could be lit better, I think, when they're crossing. It's only in the street you have those little lights, and I know that's kind of new, but I think the crosswalks could be lit better. Actually, the whole street could be. It needs better lighting.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, it's an advantage for both, like the bike riders as well as pedestrians, for visibility for the cars. Because sometimes if you come with a car, the Jensen crosswalk can be very dark. And not everybody pushes the light for the high visibility crossing.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. We'll take one last comment from Matt, and then we'll move to the next segment.
I just wanted to agree with that last comment that especially as it gets darker in the winter, it would be very nice when you're biking and walking to have extra lighting, especially in this section.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's time to move on to the next next segment. Hold on, should clear. There we go. So this is just basically what's out there right now, the cross section of the corridor. We have sidewalks, and as there's been mentioned, there's parking lanes and then the travel lanes. Okay, so this is segment 2 from Estate Street to Madison Avenue. Would anybody like to share their concerns or their observations about what they've seen on this segment?
Okay, we have Stephen. I'll unmute you right now first.
Hello again. Kind of adding on to what was said about to the west a little bit, but I found it particularly serious in this segment is where there is parking on the street. In certain areas, it tends to be a little less crowded in this area, especially than further to the west. So if you're biking, you kind of get pushed into the parking lane by default. Like that's just where people push you to be just because they're going so fast. But then you kind of have to weave in and out of the parking lane when a car shows up in the parking lane and you have to get around it, which is actually even more dangerous than just continuing straight, but the speeds are so high that it's the only way I even am brave enough to try. So.
Right.
Okay, next we have Eve. I'll unmute you right now.
Okay, the crosswalk at Estates, because there's a lot of middle schoolers that are crossing there, and I know in the afternoon and the morning there's the crossing guard. I think having another light, like a crosswalk light, not a regular light, but something in the street. I don't think there's one of those street things at that crosswalk. But that gets used a lot in the morning and the afternoon for the middle schoolers. And I just think that having another kind of crosswalk light would be good right there.
Okay. Okay, have another one.
To jump on to what the primary bicyclists are saying, as far as it being safe to ride up and down East Avenue, especially when there are parked cars.
Yeah.
The difficult thing about the East Avenue is because it runs east to west, you've got that time of day when the sun is coming up and when the sun is coming down that a driver has the light glaring them right in the eyes, which makes it very difficult to see, where the sun is making it really difficult for the driver to see pedestrians or bicyclists, right? Especially if they're having to work their way around parked cars.
I'm sorry, I think you kind of broke out or kind of we're cutting off towards the end there.
Oh, mostly my point is, as far as safety of bicyclists, the glare that naturally happens during sunrise and sunset for a driver makes it very difficult for the safety of the bicyclists in the street.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you have any more comments that we can note down at this segment? Okay, we have Christine.
I was just going to also, on Hillcrest Avenue and East Avenue, when East Avenue Middle School gets out, that intersection is completely overtaken by kids. And I don't know if it's possible to get like diagonal crosswalks, because that would just move the pedestrian flow so they're not crossing multiple streets, and when they're waiting to cross, they're sitting on the corner and they just are completely in the street because there's so many of them and the sidewalks can't accommodate them. So if there's a way to move that pedestrian traffic better.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, thank you. Okay, next we'll move to Eve.
I second that idea there. It would be nice if they could like maybe at certain times of the day when school gets out and when school is going in the morning, you have a stoplight that's a four-way stop, and it allows the kids to cross diagonally, or they'll cross going east or going north. So they can all cross at one time, kind of.
Okay.
Right.
I think that's a good idea. Well, that would be helpful. So they don't cross one way, then they all stand on the corner and they cross east, then they cross north. It would be nice, because a lot of times they want to cross over into Chardonnay Shopping Center area.
Yeah, makes sense, yeah. So if you have any more concerns, we can take a couple more, or we can move to the next segment.
Okay, I think we can move along to the next segment.
Yes.
So this is just the cross section of segment 2. Half of it has a two-way left turn lane, and the other half has about a 12-foot planting strip in there. Again, this segment has parking lanes, as you all have mentioned. Okay, so segment 3 is from Madison Ave to North Mines Road.
So we can start taking your comments or concerns if you have any for this segment. Okay, we have Matt, and then we'll have, okay, a lot more coming. So we'll first go with Matt.
Yeah, so sometimes I will, in addition to biking and walking, want to drive along East Avenue. One thing I've noticed is, especially in this section, but really across all the sections, that all of the lights are anti-synchronized. So if you catch one red light, you are likely to catch every single red light. This doesn't do much to slow the cars down. It mostly seems to make people angry. It gets you through here pretty slow and increases congestion. And this is an issue
throughout the day.
This is I've noticed this particularly in the afternoon heading west. So just like sometime around 5 p.m. I guess. This is an issue throughout Livermore as well, but it's particularly bad on East Ave and Livermore Ave.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, Matt. We'll move on to Christine.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to comment on the bus stop that stops along East Avenue across from Robert Livermore Community Center going towards the lab, so that would be eastbound. There's where it stops, I believe it stops along Almond Avenue. And so if you want to cross over to go to the community center or to Jackson Elementary School, you have to go down to Loyola Way or down the opposite direction. So I feel like there should be a crosswalk closer to the bus stop, and that's my only comment.
All right. We'll just mark this up quickly and move to the next person. So next we have Christy and Peter.
Hi, yeah, we had basically the same comment, but maybe it's more general. We couldn't tell from this map where the bus stops were on each segment, but we had the same general observation that there should be better pedestrian crossings near the bus stops. If you see a bus stop at any of these spots, people are just going to cross right there, and it's pretty dangerous. Or either that, or they have to go way out of their way to get across the street. So I don't know if it might be especially bad right at that stop, but I think in general that applies across East Avenue.
Yeah, I see this one right opposite Almond right now. Okay, so next we'll move on to Stephen.
Hello. Wow, everyone's saying the same thing, and I'll just pile on, but I'll make it a little more specific, I guess. At the Madison Avenue bus stop, there's only a crosswalk on the south and the west side of the intersection. So if you want to go to the community center, you actually have to cross, well, 2.5 times. The last one is signaled, but it's a little bit weird because there's a driveway there, but it's one house. So that's one thing. Similarly, over in front of Ashbury Methodist, there isn't any crosswalk anywhere close, and it's 1,000 feet all the way around. And then the same thing at Mines. If you get off at the bus stop at Mines is on the east side of the intersection. Yeah. But if you want to go north up Mines Road, you have to walk backwards and then cross twice at the intersection, which is a lot of delay, and most people aren't going to do it. They're just going to run across the street, which is, as we know, dangerous.
Yeah. Right. Which is like they must be doing.
I wanted to mention one more thing, which I had mentioned in my online comments as well. But there's a little trail to the west of the community center that runs up behind there, but there's no real way to get to it. You can't, I mean, if you want to go up the trail, there isn't a curb ramp there. You have to take the curb ramp earlier if you were headed west. And if you're headed east, there's no way to really turn left. You would have to take the crosswalk on the close side of the intersection, which is weird. And then if you're coming down the trail and you want to go on east towards the lab, there's no real way to turn left. And even if you go into the community center, that exit is also right turn only. So you'd have to go backwards to the intersection and turn around, it's confusing. So I think there could be a way to make that work.
Yeah,
And where's the trail?
It's to the west of the community center, so it's just east of Madison Avenue.
Okay, yeah, I see it on Google Maps. Okay, so better trail access. To sum it up.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. We'll move on to Eve.
Yeah, there's one comment that actually from Matt earlier about the traffic lights. So most traffic lights in Livermore are triggered by a signal, either a signal loop or perhaps a camera. That works well for a car, but sometimes it's a little tricky with the bike. So if you, like later or so, you want to have a left turn, you may, not be able to trigger the traffic light. So if there's any kind of improvement, or if you can have a signal where you know that a bicycle would trigger it, that would definitely help. Also, if you come back going east, of course, it's very common that you would either do a left turn on Almond Avenue to get to the bike lanes, or then Madison Avenue. And it always depends if you would actually trigger the light when the incoming traffic is heavier.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We have Matt again.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with that and say that while I am on my bike, I will not confess to anything, but I often see other bicyclists just running red lights because we can't trigger them. So if it's red, people would rather just run the red light than sit and wait.
Thank you so much for your comments. So if you have any more concerns, or we could move on to the next and the last segment.
Okay. Moving on. So again, like the other segments, these are just the cross section that's out there. There are 6 to 9 foot bike lanes out there, and some planting strips in between the roadway and the sidewalks. So segment 4 is Mines Road to Vasco Road. So, okay, Rosemary would like to comment.
Yeah.
Well, actually, mine was on the prior sections, but mostly from Loyola up to maybe Dolores, it seems to me that the speed limit, this is probably contrary to other people's opinions, but I only travel by car, and it seems like the speed limit is rather slow on that whole stretch, considering it's one of the main thoroughfares to get through Livermore. I mean, I'd like to see it like at least 35 miles an hour, but with adequate lighted crosswalks and that sort of thing in there. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Rosemary.
Okay.
So we have we actually extended our time. We have approximately 5 minutes to discuss this segment before we move on to the main room. So if people could just, if you can start coming up with your concerns, and we can quickly go over lowering your hand and unmuting you.
And this isn't the only place where you can obviously put your concerns. There is
Yeah.
the website and the interactive map where you yourself can either place a pin at an intersection or draw a line indicating a segment, and you can also put your concerns there in case we don't reach it.
We have Stephen.
Yes, I'll skip the concerns that I've already put online, but I will say when you get past Charlotte towards the Gardens Apartments and the other things down there, you have the unrestricted left turns, or you have the middle, the center lane turning lane. Because the cars are moving at such a fast speed, most of the cars that are looking to turn left are looking directly at cars and then going at whatever gap they see and not looking behind them to a pedestrian who might be walking along the sidewalk or looking for bikes that might be hidden by the cars that are going through. So you sometimes get hasty left turns that you have to avoid. Not sure exactly how to do it I'm not sure exactly how to fix that for the apartments per se, because we don't probably have the money to just put lights everywhere, but I imagine it could be cleaned up a little bit so that people couldn't make the turn quite as fast. They would have to take the turn a little slower.
All right. Next we have Eve.
Okay, I think like for speed, there's one of those speed signs. I think it's by the community center. I mean, I'm conscious of that when I'm driving,
Yeah.
and I think those are good to have on that road because it slows me down when I realize,
Right.
oh, geez, I'm kind of going fast. It helps me, and there probably could be one or two more of those, just as kind of reminders to slow down. And then just the entire road being better lit. Maybe without those LED lights that aren't very bright. That's all.
Thank you. We have Christy and Peter.
Yeah, so relatively recently, the intersection of East and Vasco had been reworked. I know there used to be a button for bikes to cross eastbound across Vasco, and that was removed, and that caused a lot of complaints. Crossing that intersection going eastbound across Vasco, you're often sharing the lane with a bus or two, because the turnaround is just on the other side of that intersection, and there's only one lane that crosses. So, something like a bike box and or triggering mechanisms for bikes would be great there.
Is there a specific direction?
This is primarily a problem heading into the labs, going eastbound.
Heading into the lab.
Eastbound across Vasco, yeah.
Okay, let me note this down on my pad since the annotation is not really working right now. Okay, Christy and
Oh.
Peter.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that people that are going to the labs by bike will be mostly taking the lane there. So that's why we're sort of competing with the traffic. The buses, after they cross Vasco, turn right. So bikes and traffic have to sort of mix at that intersection.
Okay, I think, is there, oh, one more, I think.
One, I
Probably
think we
the
can
last
take one more, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, here it's actually just continuing with this discussion for the bike when you go in a lane. So if with the traffic regulations, it wouldn't really be a problem if most of the drivers know that, you know, if you go straight and then you go behind the bike rider and you can turn on the right lane. And I don't know if, like, how the success is. I know that Pleasanton used like the green paint to indicate that now the bike lane, you know, is dashed interrupted and you move to the regular lane to go straight, if this actually improved or reduced any possible accidents. I was just wondering if there's any statistics on that, because I know that Pleasanton started to really, you know, spend a lot on green paint and made those bike lanes, especially when you switch lanes, more visible and perhaps easier for the cars.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess
I think we can start heading back to the main room. And I think Rosemary will be our speaker that sort of just gives a summary of what we discussed.
Well, can we summarize now, actually, what Rosemary is going to say, so she's not put completely on the spot?
Oh.
Yeah, we can do that. I'll unmute Rosemary.
Yeah, I did have to, as I put in the chat, I had to leave the room for like 2 minutes and missed the beginning of segment 2. So Oliver, were you taking notes too at the beginning of segment 2?
Yeah, I did save the...
I mean, I came back when they were talking about Hillcrest and East Avenue. So I'm not sure what was before that.
Let me go back. So, did you capture the part of the pedestrians at Hillcrest?
I got the part about when school gets out and yeah, that the cross, it's all overtaken by the school people and school kids. And it was suggested that there was more of a diagonal crosswalk or something where they could go both east and then north kind of in one swoop, trying to have all the kids cross at one time.
Okay. I think probably the three main issues on segment 2 is bicycle safety. Bicyclists are having to ride in the parking lane, and then if there's a vehicle parked, they'd have to weave back into the travel lane. Also some recommended crosswalk enhancements at Estate Street. And then another issue that was brought up was the PEDs. And then someone brought up that since it's an east-west corridor, the sun oftentimes could be an issue due to the glare. Maybe better pedestrian visibility and bicycle visibility along the entire corridor would be helpful.
Well, okay, so for the summary, then, I mean, I wrote down each individual comment. You want me to just sort of group them together or what?
Yeah, you can read out the comments or group them together, however the way you're comfortable.
Okay.
So thank you for participating, everyone. If you feel that you couldn't tell us all your concerns, you can visit the website, and there's an interactive map option where you can note down your concerns on the map at this location which we saw in the main room. So now all we have to do is just leave the room and go to the main room where we're going to be having a final talk for the session. So if you at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a button called Leave Room, and you can just click on it and just say Leave Breakout Room.